Welcome back to another episode of the OliviaSea podcast with your host, Bianca Franco. So today I have Justin Guthrie with me here today. I met Justin about a year ago when he first started scuba diving. And now he has about 55 dives under his belt, and he's an advanced open water diver, and he's on his way to be a dive master. So that was one of the number one reasons why I have him on this podcast here today. You're a scuba diver, you're in love with the ocean, and you love to film. So I thought it'd be really fun to have you on. So welcome to the OliviaSea podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I almost didn't hear you again. We had audio troubles earlier, and I didn't hear you. So today we're going to be talking about our passion for the ocean, our love for film, and getting all to that. And then we're going to work our way into my favorite season, October. So as I mentioned in my last podcast, I like scary stuff, and it's my favorite season. So we're going to talk about 5 fears that people are scared of to get into scuba diving. So we'll work our way into that and get started in there. But we should probably get to know you a little better first before we jump into that. So I think the best way to start off is, why did you start scuba diving? Because I saw you when you first started, and so why did that start you off?
Yeah, so originally the way I got into it was kind of by chance. I met a guy at the gym. We'd both been doing CrossFit for about the same amount of time, doing a lot of workouts together. Well, he's actually from the Cayman Islands, and was
cool.
and living it, yeah. So, but he was only living in Tucson for the year, working for TEP, the electric company here, for a year, and then it was just as a co-op, and then he was going back. So so whenever he headed back, we became good friends. I was like, I'll come out and visit you. So I had plans to go out and visit without being a certified diver. I was just like, I'm just going to go out and visit. And then I think I saw a Groupon to get certified get certified to do scuba diving. And so I messaged him like, hey, are you certified? He's like, yeah. So I guess I'll look into that. So I went ahead and signed up, and also text my friend Ian, which you also have met, saying, hey, I'm signing up for this Groupon to go get certified to scuba dive if you're interested. And sure enough, he jumped in too,
and this
so
is
now we
before
both
you went to the Cayman Islands?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So before I went to the island, just because I was like, okay, because I'm gonna go there, that's something I can
might
do
as well, right?
And so both Ian and I got in and got certified. And through the process, you go through. They want you to buy your fins, your mask, snorkel, your SMB, your buoy, your
and
marker,
your boots, and all
your
the good
boots,
stuff. Yeah.
And so all that, and then it's like, well, we went through the class when we were using all rental gear, but then it's like, you know what? I don't want to just finish this and be certified and, I did it that one time and now I do it every 5 years.
Right.
So both of us, we ended up all right, we bought our computer, we bought our BC, we bought our regulator, all the stuff that we needed.
Bought all that major stuff before you went into the ocean?
Yeah.
That's some commitment right there. Oh my gosh.
Our open water certification, we
wow.
we both our brand new gear. I think the only thing that both of us rented for that first trip was our wetsuit.
Out of all that, you rented your wetsuit?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what would have happened if you got all this gear and you didn't like the sport? Did you already know that you were gonna like it?
Getting into the pool, I was like, this is pretty cool. I felt very comfortable with it. It's just, I had again, it's kind of one of those okay, if I've got the gear, I got to go use it. So I didn't really, okay. I'm going to enjoy this. And I'm glad I did.
Well, yeah. So what was your initial reaction when you first got into the water when you were in Mexico?
the very first time, just jumping in, and it's just like you're just looking around like,
Yeah.
oh, like there's just so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think one of the fish that stand out the most is the
Right.
king angels. There
Mm-hmm.
you see so many of them in San Carlos.
Yeah.
So it is really cool.
And then you
Um,
got to see the sea lions then too, right?
yeah, and actually that first trip I didn't see that many sea lions. I know you and
Oh,
Sarah did,
yeah,
but with us doing our skills and everything, we were just kind of
that's
off
right.
away. So
That makes sense.
knock, the, knock these things out, and then we can go explore. So I didn't see as many on that trip, but I've been now a couple other times that there are a ton of
The
fun.
sea
I got
puppies.
yeah, the pups of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
And so right after that, you went to Cayman Islands.
yeah. So that was May of last year, May of 18. And then I went basically end of June of 18 out to the Cayman Islands and got to go do seven dives there. And that was the first few I did without my friend. He wasn't able to take off the whole week from work. So I just went
Okay.
out to a shop and went and did some dives there. And again, that was just a whole nother experience. The visibility in San Carlos is great,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just night and
Right.
day. Um,
Completely different.
and then, the temperature of the water too is, I mean, I was in just shorts, which I don't do anymore, just
Right.
to protect myself.
But
Um,
we went. It was cold. You're right. It was a bit colder.
yeah, yeah. Um, like that one, I'm pretty sure I had a 5 mil wetsuit
Mm-hmm.
for that very first trip. But then again, in Cayman, I'm just in gym shorts. That was
Right.
it.
That's how I started off in Bali too. It was just with
Oh
my
yeah,
my bathing suit, and then I worked my way up to rash guard to protect myself from
right.
the coral and stuff like that. But yeah, it's night and day when you go to an island like that. And Mexico, like you said, is beautiful. It's just
Yeah,
a different place. So it's
yeah.
completely different, and you get these new experiences. And you were able to use your GoPro then, right, and start filming because you weren't
So
able to in
yeah,
Mexico yet.
well, and actually, so my first trip there in San Carlos,
Mm-hmm.
I actually had or have a mount just to put on my VC
Mm-hmm.
that, so I jumped in, okay, record the whole dive. And so Chris was my instructor down there in San Carlos. He's like, yeah, normally I would say, no cameras at all, but because I wasn't like messing with it during the dive, he was
Right.
okay with it.
That's cool.
But going back to it, it was like, there's so much
It,
footage.
yeah,
It's just
and
like,
then it's kind of like all over the place too because you have it on your VC.
right. When like you think that where the camera's pointed is like, oh yeah, I'm getting something cool, but it's not. Or
Right.
sometimes, I mean, you still catch some good stuff, but it's not quite like using the selfie stick or whatever they use it, which is what I ended up using in San Carlos. And I actually had another GoPro, so I was actually able to give that one to my friend to use while we were down there, which is a lot more fun because here
Yeah.
I'm getting footage and he's getting footage, so like we able to get footage of each other.
Yes.
So yeah, and while we're on that topic of that trip specifically, a valuable lesson learned was, so I had my GoPro 6, and so that one is waterproof without housing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've gone to, like I said, the first couple of days I went without my friend, went just to a shop, and I just dropped in. I didn't like call ahead of time, and so I go in and like, oh well, we're kind of full, but you can come back this afternoon because I
Yeah.
had gone in the morning. It's like, okay, no worries. I'm not like in any rush. So I just went down the road and found a nice little beach to jump in and just snorkeled,
Yeah.
and so I had it out of the housing to record some video. Well, out of the housing, you can only go to 30 feet. With the special housing for it, then you can go to 100, 150 feet. Past your recreational limits.
Right.
Well, so then I put it in afterwards, and even with the anti-fog tabs in there, it's still fogged up really bad, even though like, okay, dried it off,
Yeah.
put it in, had anti-fog tabs, and it was still really foggy. So like the first like couple dives that I had there with
That
the footage
sucks.
was so
Oh my
good.
gosh.
Lesson learned.
Well, I've learned a lot of lessons too. Like when I was in Mexico and me and Sarah were playing with the sea lions, and this bull comes up to her and like gets into her
Oh,
face because I don't know
yeah,
what she was doing. I think she was just too close to the other sea lions, and I was like, oh my god, I got this shot on camera, and
yeah.
I'm pointing the GoPro towards her, and I'm so excited, and I turned it
Right.
on, and it's recording and everything. I had it on picture mode. I was so mad.
Oh,
Like
and,
you
and
don't see that happen.
I don't even do picture mode on the GoPro anymore. Like I just
I
record,
don't
and
know
then
what.
like
I
later
was
on,
just too
I'll pull a
excited.
picture out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh no.
it was so sad because I was like, oh my god, I would love to show the instructors that because they talk about that in class. Like,
Yeah.
if
Oh yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
mess with the sea lions, they will give you a warning and come up and
Watch out
bark
for the
at you, and
bull.
you can smell the fish on their breath. Like they make a big deal. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
warning to get away. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can use this as a video for their
Good.
classes. Like I had this whole thing going on in my
Instructions. Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
and I get
Yeah.
back to it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's just like a picture of a rock. I was so mad. So
Right.
now I always make sure that the video is on before I start like recording something in particular. But that
A lot of
was
times, you can also have the just the auto on function, where it's just like you hit like it's off, you hit the record button, give it a couple seconds, it turns on, it starts recording. You
well, I
have to go
had
get.
at that time the really really old GoPro, like the 3
Yeah.
plus. So that one I was still learning how to use that, and so yeah, I did that. But I just
Yeah.
upgraded to the new 7 black thing.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
Good. Good.
so that will be
Actually,
nice for my new trips.
I saw from GoPro today that they came out with the 8.
Oh my god,
And
really?
yeah,
What does it
well,
do?
so the main things that I saw that were more Razoo, which didn't really
Mm-hmm.
matter to me, that you can mount to it without the little skeleton frame, whoopie-doo, and then it can
Gotcha.
do instead of 720p live streaming, it can do 1080p live streaming, and
So it's
then
just like upgrading your new Apple phone.
yeah, it really wasn't that much. Like I said, to me, to be able to mount to it without like the little skeleton frame, I didn't really care about that because it's not
Right.
like that big of a deal, especially if
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put it into a dive housing. So,
Okay.
and I
Yeah,
never
I
used it.
literally just got it in the mail today, so and they
No,
just
no,
upgraded it.
you're better off of that because like what 40, I don't know, probably $60 cheaper than the new one. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, because since I'm moving and going to do all these diving in New
Mhm.
Zealand, I'm like, I need to upgrade my
Did you
GoPro
get a
because
dive
I'm.
housing for it?
Do I get what?
Did you get a dive housing for it?
Not yet. One
Okay.
step at a time. but
Yeah.
I have my old housing. I was gonna see if that fits. I know it's not gonna fit, and then I was gonna wait to buy that afterwards.
Okay.
But yeah, I figured I should probably upgrade since I finally start filming again. I'm so excited. I keep
Right.
seeing your films and all your dives
Yeah.
and stuff, and it makes me so jealous. I'm like, I want to be able to film again. And so you were
It's
where
fun.
were you recently?
So the last video that I posted, and I'm trying to think. So I that wasn't my last dive, but doing the dive master candidate stuff, they don't want
Right.
us to have cameras, which is
That makes
understandable.
sense.
I haven't been taking any videos during those dives, which is fine. But that last one was with my fiance. We were down. I was out for Labor Day weekend, and we drove down to the Pensacola, Orange Beach area.
Mm-hmm.
So this was Fort Pickens, which is actually a national park, which is kind of cool. It's like, oh, get to dive in a national park.
It is cool.
And the day before, we actually tried diving in the Alabama side, not the Florida side, and it was the hurricane was going through, which we were on just good part right there where it's the only part that's okay, but it still had a lot of waves and surge
Yeah.
in where we were at. It's actually lost a fin during that one.
Oh my gosh.
We were gonna go and do a try. It was a shore dive that actually had a wreck that was that close to the shore. So we were gonna go out and do that, but we just couldn't. It was just the waves were too
There's
much.
no way you can get over those waves. Yeah.
Yeah, and I told her afterwards, like, you know, the waves that we saw here is about the same as the waves we saw on our last dive in Hawaii. But those waves there, I mean, that was on a boat dive. So that, you know,
Right.
you basically it will just drop down and get away
Right.
from you're out of the waves. But so the one that we ended up doing the next day, because it was there in that national park, and it's kind of on the other side, so it's not like where the Gulf Coast is directly hitting it. It's kind of on the inside of it. Anyways, but it turned out to be like, it's like, okay, it really made me appreciate San Carlos, because we dropped down and we just don't really see as much as like what we've seen. But we go through and it's jellyfish season, which again, it's like why I'm like, okay, we're in the full
Yeah.
wetsuit, wore gloves. Neither of us had our hoods with us. So it was just like, well, protect ourselves as much
Hope
as
for the best.
yeah. Well, so the day before, we like at the end of like the attempted dive, we were like came up like, no, this is not good, because we kept getting stung right here on our
So how
face.
many jellyfishes were there? Like, were they just
Well,
floating by? Or?
yeah, so that first day, because of all the waves and everything, the visibility was absolutely terrible.
Right.
So you couldn't even see them, you know, or until they were like right here. So then the second day, the visibility was so much better because of where we were at, and so it was like you see them and like, and you could appreciate them. Like, okay, there's one. Just okay, stay away.
Right.
But then we did that, and Aspen, she actually found a little squid about yay, not squid, octopus about yay big. She found it, and so I got up on it, and he's zooming around and found a little rock, tried to
so
blend
cool.
in, and went off again, and it was cool to see him change the colors and everything.
Right.
And then you know, that was only about a 35-foot dive, and so, you know, our decompression was very, you know, our nitrogen levels were very low. So I was like, we got up, finished the dive, and then I told her, like, let's just change tanks and let's go again, right? Because we were already like an hour, like it wasn't like we were close to anything to go get food or something. So the next one, it was like two completely different dives. Like that first one was a lot of like smaller stuff that we saw, plus jellyfish, and then the next one, same spot, but like we ended up getting caught in some current, so it washed us down a little bit to this old pier. But because this old pier started becoming like an artificial reef, so there's a lot of life around there. There were these they call them Atlantics. It was one of the guys that I met at Finney's Landing. I showed him the video, and he said that they were these fish that kept coming up and rubbing up on our fins. They come up and just like rub up on you like a cat would rub up on your leg.
Okay,
and
that's
he
interesting.
called them Atlantic spadefish. And so there were those, and then
Did you get any video of that?
yeah, there's
okay, cool.
That. And then on top of that, so after that, let's see what else.
Cool.
Oh, so you know, like you were talking about Sarah having that bull like right in front of her, right?
Right.
So I look over, and all of a sudden I see in front of Aspen this huge jellyfish just right in front of her. I'm like, oh
my God.
like pointed out, and it's like she's just like so close that you couldn't tell, just like mesmerized by the center of it, and all of a sudden like, oh, that's a jelly. And then again, it's like again one of those things where I thought I didn't get good footage of her. I did have footage of that jellyfish, but I thought I had that of her like right in front of it.
Oh my gosh.
But then to top it all off, I was like so surprised. I go through a turn and I see an eagle ray. a blue spotted eagle ray. And I'm like, no way. I was not expecting an
No
eagle ray
way.
in this area. I don't even like try to make noise or anything. I grabbed Aspen on her BC, like,
Right.
look.
Look.
And like, after she didn't know what I was trying to point out to her. She's like, oh. I'm like, I don't know how to sign, like, how do I say an eagle ray? So I'm like, so I've got a Zeagle covert BC, which has an American flag on it. So I like pointed to the American flag, and then just like, I'm like, totally no. I'm like, I'll tell you up top.
She's just like, it's already gone past. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Which we saw an old one in Kona, which he was like lost his, like no longer had the spots, lost his tail, he was old and battered.
Oh my gosh.
But like to see this younger one with beautiful blue spots is just like, oh yes.
Just come right past you too. They sneak up on you, those animals. They're so quiet. Like you think you can hear everything, but it's come and go. You can have like a big, I have someone told me like the whale shark swim right past them, didn't even see him because it was behind them. And that's a huge ass animal. Like how does that happen? But it happens where it sneaks up on you like that.
Yeah. I was at the gym today, and I went to go grab my water bottle, which has a whale shark, not a whale shark, a tiger shark on it. And one of the girls there, oh, did you swim with one? I'm like, not that I know of.
Right. I could, but maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Oh my gosh. But going back to that jellyfish though, how did Aspen feel like? Was she scared when she initially finally saw it?
I mean, at first it's like you just gotta stay calm, you know. You don't freak out. You're just like, well, okay, I'm just gonna. And part of it too is just kind of worrying. Like I said, that dive, we kind of got pulled into some current. So like at any second could like just push right into her. But so it's just kind of like, okay, avoid. So yeah, it was a little bit of a freak out, but again, just kind of trying to stay calm.
And she is an experienced diver too, I'm assuming. If she can stay calm like that, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, so she's done her night truck, she's done her night. She just signed up for her deep diving.
Nice.
All kind of some of the things that I've helped kind of push to like, hey, you should do these. Especially because when we were down there, I tried to sign up, like get on a boat charter, and there was one that was to this old aircraft carrier, but it's a deep dive, and so I was like, yeah, we better not do that until you get your certification.
Right.
But no, she just got her certification in April. No, finished it in May. Her last 2 dives were up at Lake Pleasant, Cinco de Mayo.
Lake Pleasant, that's always fun to dive.
Yeah. I was there this weekend, and the visibility was.
That sounds about right.
I mean, it varies when you go down. If you get deeper, it's a whole lot better.
And that if you get closer to winter time, it's super clear. It's just a bit cold. But did you in winter?
Oh yeah, okay.
It's a little colder, but the visibility is much better. You know.
Okay.
But did you influence her to start diving, or was she a diver already?
No, that's how we met. She was at her pool session, with Ashley. She was at her pool session with Ashley, and that's where we met. But we kind of like look at it. There's so many things that kind of like lined up to where we were able to meet because she wasn't able to get certified earlier, or didn't. So she's Air Force, and she was stationed in Oahu, and there was somebody that had passed away earlier from a scuba diving accident. She doesn't know what happened, but that kind of like she didn't, because of that she kind of hesitated, didn't really want to get into it then. And then she was down in Australia, and she wanted to get certified then. She was actually there for a good amount of time, but she had a bad head cold and couldn't get over it to be able to, so she wouldn't be able to equalize and everything. So she didn't get certified then. So it pushed it to later on. And then so again, it's one of those kind of everything like lined up just right to where we were able to. So
everything really happens for a reason, I think.
Right.
I bet she's gonna want to go back to Australia though and go dive there.
Oh,
That'd be awesome.
I would love to go there too. So
Right. So you guys can go dive together. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, that's so cute.
yeah.
And we jumped ahead a little bit. So okay, so
Sure.
I met you
It
as
happens.
as a beginner diver, and now you're working your way up to dive master. What inspired you to kind of get into that realm of helping people learn how to dive?
So it kind of jumped in from so last year when I was in Cayman, I was seeing people using nitrox, and they're jumping in the water before me and getting out after me, which I now know is actually more about your air consumption, not so much that it's nitrox.
Right.
But because of the nitrox, I was like, oh, I want to be able to use that, and so I looked on the 72's website, and for the nitrox, there was like, okay, I could do this class, or there's the advanced class, which included nitrox, deep, navigation, stress and rescue, and react right. But I could go through and do that as and just bundle it and get all those certifications instead of just the nitrox. So I, basically just like, okay, well, let me do that. So I just kind of like, as I jumped into that, then, kind of just enjoyed doing the stress and rescues. Kind of, we talked about this separately about how I lifeguarded before, and so there's parts of it that kind of translate. It's kind of a lot of the same, just now that you're adding air supply. And air supply, and then you're also looking at deeper situations and different elements. Your nitrogen is if it's not treated right, then it can be it can really hurt you. That's what
A little toxic.
but no, so it's been a really good experience. Definitely being more fit is definitely helps with being able to do those type of activities, to be able to help people out of the water and bring them back to the boat or something like that. So it's just kind of one of those, again, just started getting into it, and then the 72 aquatics are just like, hey, you should do this, and you should so they did a lot of encouraging. Right. Hey, you should try it, you should do this as well. So it was like, okay.
Well,
So
72 Aquatics is kind of like a family. Once you kind of join into their group, you kind of just have this little tight-knit group of people, and you just want to be a part of it all the time.
Right.
That's kind of what happened to me. They just stuck with me because now I live around the corner from the shop, and I just pop in whenever and say hi. Right. And it's just like a little family.
Anytime I go in there, usually it's like, okay, I want to go in, I'm going to be there like 15 minutes, and then it's like, no, it's like an hour later.
Yeah. But, oops.
Yeah.
But how was your stress and rescue class? Because that's a class that I signed up for and I'm too scared to take. So I've seen someone else do the stress and rescue class before I signed up. So I was on a trip. I'm not sure. I don't think it was the one you guys were on. But I was with Sarah, and everyone started pointing and laughing at the people in the water. And I looked over. I'm like, what are they doing? And one of the instructors told me, they're like, oh, they're doing a stress and rescue. Someone fell off the boat. And but people were all like laughing and started videotaping. And I was like, this is what I signed up to do. There's no way I want to do this. And so I've been so scared to do it just because I just don't want people like watching me try to rescue this person. And I heard that from Chris. He was telling me they know your skills. They know how good you are when they're training you. And they'll try to push the limits to where they push your stress level to see how much you can handle in a real life situation. So I was wondering, since you took that class, how was that class for you? Was it really that bad, or is it just me overreacting?
I'm gonna say it's you overreacting, and just the analysis from the way you kind of describe that, I would say that it's a little more of you being embarrassed of what other people see how you do.
I guess so.
If you go in and don't necessarily perform quite to what they expected, they're gonna sit down and talk with you like, hey, hey, you did this well. but you need to work on this, and try this different, do this a little differently, and it'll make it better, but really, like, a lot of the stress and rescue, you want to be able to, a lot of the class revolves around recognizing stress and being able to mitigate it before you get in the water, because, and then also mitigate it before you start your dive. Like, let's say that you're jumping in the water and you notice stress, you want to be able to mitigate it before you don't want somebody to start a dive and they're already stressed, because then once they get down, it's worse. Same goes with, you don't want somebody jumping in the water if they're stressed before jumping in the water, because they're going to, it's just going to get worse once they get in the water. So a part of that, becomes just recognizing the stresses. And I think that you're probably a little more would be worried about the rescue. And then it just kind of becomes practicing techniques. I think the biggest thing
I have the techniques down. I'm just worried about people watching me do the techniques.
So it's more about what are people going to think of me? So don't worry about it.
I don't know. I just have this thing always that I don't like people watching. So I've always tried to sign up for it.
Oh, you don't like people watching, but now you have this podcast.
Yeah, I'm really weird. Okay, this is much easier. I'm in my own home. There's no people watching me. It's totally good. So I even tried messaging like the instructors. I was like, well, when is it there's 10 people on the boat compared to 30 people on the boat? Because then I won't be so bad. But I just really need to get over this fear of my own insecurity of people watching me. Because it's otherwise, I know the techniques and the rescue. I've done all that in the pool. I just don't want to do it in front of people. That's the only thing holding me back.
So what if it was a real, like, okay, you go through past and it's a real situation, like, oh, don't watch me.
Don't watch me save this person.
Right.
I think that would be like a fight or flight situation where, you want to help that person. But knowing that I'm put in a situation to where everyone's going to be watching me pretend to save someone, I think it's completely different. I would hope so in that situation. But
I mean, I haven't just getting into this, so I haven't really had to actually save anybody. Actually, it's all been for pretend. But there has been a little bit here and there, like, okay, again, noticing stresses and just trying to help mitigate those stresses and help people out, to make them comfortable. But to kind of go back to the history, I have had to save people for lifeguarding, and most of them were whenever I was actually it's my job, I'm on duties, stuff like that. I've got my hot dog, I have everything on me ready to go. And whereas one was actually at the lake in New Mexico, where a guy was cliff jumping and he didn't know how to swim.
Oh my gosh.
In that moment, I was like, I was like, okay, I jump in and go to pull him back to shore. And it kind of one of those things too, is like, know how to get them and then get them to the side, but if it becomes too much, go down. They don't want to go down.
Right.
So.
Wow, that's crazy. Why would someone drop off a cliff if they don't know how to swim?
Bad friends, because they were those guys. These were guys.
Peer pressure type thing.
Yeah, exactly. His friends were peer pressuring him. They pulled up on a boat saying, "Hey, jump in, or you're not a good word."
Right. Right. Gosh, that'd be so scary. And so you're a lifeguard beforehand. Is that what maybe pushed you into scuba diving? Like, where did this love of the water come from for you? It just literally happened.
It just kind of literally, just kind of.
And then you jumped in and oh yeah, I like this. This is cool.
Right. I mean, I'm originally from New Mexico, landlocked state. Now live in Arizona, landlocked state. Lived in Arkansas, a landlocked state.
Right.
So it's just,
lucky us.
But why, the ocean and all all it has, it's just a whole new world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't really pinpoint where it actually started, but I mean, I also know that, you know, at a young age when we would go to the lake, you know, I always enjoyed that. I never really thought about scuba diving then, and it's kind of interesting too because my dad he was a big scuba diver. I mean, he never really did much like going out on adventures, but he would do it for work. And
What does he do for
so,
work?
he used to work on the Z machine, which is for the San Diego National Labs, and they would have to go through and get out any air bubbles. And it got to the point that they were actually like, hey, for anybody that comes in and do this, it's an extra $10 an hour to go through
Oh,
and like
yeah.
use these ones to get the air bubbles out. Like, you don't even have to give me that extra, but
Right.
okay. But like he used to do that, and you know it's been many years since he has been diving. And then my mom also got certified. This is a Blue Hole in New Mexico, which is
Wow.
eastern New
You
Mexico.
literally have a family of divers. That's pretty cool.
Kinda. Well,
Do you
but she got
always have a
certified.
dive buddy though?
Well, but she got certified and then was like, wasn't really into it. And then, like I said,
Oh.
it's been many years, but I would love to get him back into it.
I'm sure if you encouraged it a little, he would get back into it.
Well, and I would love to try and take my mom somewhere where she could see stuff because where she went in New Mexico is just hey, this is where it'd be like going to Pleasant in a way.
Right. Well, my mom had a fear of diving too, and I took her to La Jolla Shores, and we snorkeled. And once she got over her fear of the waves and stuff, and saw her first leopard shark, when she finally saw
Mm,
something, that's when she's like,
yeah,
okay. And I couldn't get her out
right.
of the water. I'm like, okay, I think we need to go back now. And she's like, no. So I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
yeah, like you said, if you can take her to a place where she can see something, that's a whole nother
yeah,
experience where you get that connection with the
right,
ocean. And just like you got in the water and you saw all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you realized how much you actually liked it. So it's just
right.
another experience.
Yeah.
Hmm. So did you have any fears before you started scuba diving, or you just
I never really have, and I know, you know, there's always the people say, "Oh, the sharks." Oh, like
right?
I want to see the sharks
I
because
want to see the sharks.
and you know, going back to the eagle ray, that was when I was in Cayman. I knew that, you know, I could see them, and like I seen pictures, and I was like, "Oh, I want to see one of those." And so the whole trip, you know, I was telling my buddy, I'm like, "I want to see an eagle ray. I want to see an eagle ray," and then like the last dive or the second last dive, somewhere around there, that we see a reef shark. I'm like, oh, cool. So I'm kicking, just going after it with a goat, like
Right.
with a can. Oh, okay, cool. And then like we get back to the surface, and my buddy's like, "Did you see the eagle ray?" I'm like, "What? No." So
Oh
apparently, while I was going after the
no.
shark, here comes the eagle ray.
I
Um,
mean, shark, eagle ray, you can't really go wrong with that.
right.
But
But as far as like water critters, like the alligators and crocodiles, no. And
I think I
then
would do alligators and crocodiles. I
wow,
just wouldn't. Yeah, I would kind of actually would like to do that.
like dive with them.
Yeah, that's like on
No.
my bucket list thing to do.
Like in a cage.
No, I want to get up in film them right up and close, get those jaws and everything.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And those are your famous last words.
yeah. Right, get those jaws.
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't do the anaconda like we talked about before.
yeah,
That's something
yeah,
because those, I mean, alligators and stuff are just as powerful, but anacondas, I just cannot picture that's not how I want to go.
yeah. One that's yeah that the video that you had shared on your Facebook page, that was with the anaconda. That was ugh, no. And then another one again. This was more on the yeah, I can't imagine diving in an area where you'd see these, but the water moccasins or cottonmouths, whichever way you want to call
Mm-hmm.
them, real angry snakes, just
Yeah,
and they're very poisonous.
I can
Uh,
do less without that, but otherwise, I
yeah,
think I'm good to go.
yeah. The only other things like I know whenever we started that, whenever I started that, you know, the scorpion fish, like, oh, don't touch those, don't touch those.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, as long as you're not dropping down and just hitting the bottom where you could maybe accidentally run into one, they're really not that bad. They're kind of cool. They're cool to see whenever you do see them. It's like, okay, again, kind of like with the jellyfish, like, okay, there's one, just stay away.
Just stay your distance. Yeah, a lot of stuff that happens with animals are usually human error. If you get too close, you don't work on your buoyancy or whatever you're doing, it's usually human error. So I feel like everything in the ocean you shouldn't really be too afraid if you're educated enough and know what you're doing. Like, you should know what you're doing if you're going in the water anyways. So you should be, trained well enough and have a good enough buddy around to make sure you're doing your own thing and stuff like that. So I don't know. Animals is just not a big fear for me, at least.
No. As far as like, fears of diving would be like to be around a wreck and have some certain surge where like you get pulled in or something,
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, water is really powerful. You don't want to underestimate the power of water.
I know Ian was telling me about one of his San Diego dives, that one of the wrecks down there, that they lose people in that wreck every once in a while because they'll get close to this area and it's got a bad surge that will suck you in and then you can't get out. Yeah.
How does that even happen? That's so scary. I'm trying to imagine myself in that situation, and I don't know, like, how would you save your dive buddy from that? That's just crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be one of those, you don't. I mean,
you gotta save yourself first, right?
You have to analyze, and just in the stress and rescue situation too, you gotta analyze the scenario. Okay, you don't want to go in to try and save somebody unless it's safe for yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't want to scare all our people away from scuba diving.
Right.
But
diving, but it all takes a bunch of different trainings.
Well, there is people out there.
Wreck diving.
Wait, what?
I haven't done the wreck diving certification, but I'm sure that there's talk about that, of things to avoid like that.
Yeah, wreck diving is a whole nother level. I haven't gotten that certification either. I've only seen the one in Bali, and that was like a shore wreck dive. It was only at least, at the very most, 30 feet. So that wasn't much of a wreck dive, but it was beautiful to see. It just wasn't.
And some of the, yes, a lot of wrecks are actually usually deeper. That's definitely something to take into account. But a lot of it too, to take into account, even if it's shallow, is usually, unless you know it well, or the group you're with knows it well, you don't want to be entering it. You want to just
I was just swimming around it and just looking at the pretty core that's growing off of it and stuff like that. But I don't think there was much to go into it. It was so old that it's just pretty much coral now. It was really cool.
Oh, okay.
But
that's cool.
Wreck diving is a whole nother level. I want to get into that one day, but I need to get over my stress and rescue first until I get into wreck diving.
Don't worry about the crowd.
Right, yeah. I'll go over my fear.
Find it for the winter.
Right. But since we're talking about fears, we're gonna talk about 5 fears that stop people from scuba diving. Can you guess what the number 1 fear is?
I'd say I'd say sharks, but then on some token, I think it's claustrophobia.
Those are very good answers.
Yeah.
But the number 1 fear is drowning.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Which I could kind of relate to, because when I first started scuba diving, I was first terrified of people being there, because I didn't have a dive buddy. I would have to go out and meet people. But I also didn't know how to swim. I learned how to swim just a few years ago. And so I'm like, okay, well, I really want to be a marine biologist. I want to get on that path. So I'm going to start scuba diving. I really should learn how to swim. Well, and so then I talked to one of the guys, the instructor there, and they're like, oh, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So we tried it out at the pool, and they're like, okay, you have to do 10 laps back and forth. And if you can't, you can't pass the class. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to swim. I told them that I can kind of swim, but that was one of my fears, that not drowning, was to stay above water. And once you had the fins and your wetsuit and you're so
Right.
much more buoyant,
Right.
that fear went away for me
Okay.
until I got to Mexico and I was the last one off the boat. I wouldn't get into the water. I was looking at the wind and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. I might drown. And realistically, having the regulator in my mouth and continuing to breathe and all that, once I got into the water, that fear went away. But I
Yeah.
could see where not being educated in not being in the situation, having that fear of drowning might come up since I also didn't know how to swim. But a
Yeah.
lot of people know how to swim. That's very rare for a lot of people that don't know how to swim. But
Well, it's more common than you'd think, and it's
really,
surprising. Yeah, I know one of my sister's exes. She's what 28 now, and he knows. So he's about her age, and he was
yeah.
not. I don't think he still doesn't know how to swim. Um, and I knew somebody else that also didn't know how to swim, and it's just yeah, it surprises me.
Well, I still don't consider myself a strong swimmer because I feel like since I throw on fins and everything, and it gives me
Right.
that, you know, area to
That
to swim
that
properly. But
yeah.
I don't have that fear anymore. I can tell you that. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think ways to get over that fear is, like you said, having all that extra gear that
Mm-hmm.
helps you is okay. Let's get in the pool and put everything on, and you see like, okay, I don't have to really swim. I'm just kind of here.
Well, also, you shouldn't like push your limits. You should take it slow and easy and just
Right.
go as comfortable as you should.
Right. And
If
that's what I
anyone
say.
does have that fear, like just take
Like
it slow. It's the best way to get
like
through scuba diving. It's not a fast-paced sport. You should be going
mhm.
slow anyways because you don't want to miss the things that are swimming right in front of you.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I'm saying. That you want to be able to yeah try everything out in the pool. Oh, okay, this is, like, especially if that's something that you're kind of afraid of. Like, okay, we'll start off in the shallow end with all the gear. Okay, I got this. You know.
mhm, mhm. Well, that was our number one, which
Okay.
but the second one is what you guessed the first time. So the second one is fear of
Sharks.
sharks. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even when I
Um.
took my class, my open water class, someone asked, I don't remember who it was, but they're like, what about the sharks? And in Mexico in particular, you don't see sharks very often. It's if you see a
Right.
shark, it's so rare.
Yeah.
And even if they see you first and they see your bubbles, they go the opposite way. They're not coming
Well.
anywhere near you.
Right. And I'd be curious on the statistics for shark attacks. A, and then B, shark attacks for snorkelers. C, shark
Right.
attacks for scuba divers.
Right. Well, there's a big difference between like the free divers and snorkelers in one group, and then the
Right.
scuba divers in the other group, because they are in the above
Right.
and where your scuba
Mhm.
divers you are below. There's a big difference in ratio for that. And so for scuba diving in particular, you don't have much to worry about. Like if you see a
Right.
shark, you should be grateful that you saw that shark because that's
Right.
like the one thing I want to see all the time when I get in the water is like hopefully I see a shark today. Like
Right.
that's just my goal. But
Um,
I mean, if
I
you're not
think
educated, like we said before,
right.
I could see that fear as well.
When there was a gal that Aspen and I saw in Alabama on that first day that we were trying to do a dive, and she said that she actually got bit during a dive on her calf, which she showed us her calf, and I'm like, I don't, I don't really recognize the scar, but I'll take your word for it. But
Right.
the thing that she said is that she had this anklet, like a silver anklet that shiny, and so shark Rice saw it as a, oh, I'm gonna go bite that, and then
Right. Could have
wait, no,
attracted.
that's not what I want. Let go.
Did she tell you what kind of shark?
I don't. If she did, I don't remember.
Right.
But it was just kind of interesting, and it's like something like, again, not being in an area where you're around that all the time, didn't even
Right.
think about about having any kind of shiny gear. I
Hmm.
know Ashley told me about certain shark guides will want you to have all black gear.
Right, because he
Um,
looks
so,
like a seal.
Right. No, it's all black. No, I think once you have all black gear, so you don't have anything like in that same realm of that that's not shiny that like ends up attracting them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
That makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If I see a shark, I'd be so excited.
Oh yeah.
But like you said, like if people are uneducated and all that, they just won't be able to appreciate it. And I don't think that should be something that you should stay away from scuba diving. If you're so scared of sharks, don't go in an area that maybe has sharks.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which okay, I'm only gonna do lake dives.
Right. Well, lake diving and stuff like that, which
You're
is
not
still
scared.
cool, but
Yeah.
it's not the same as, scuba diving.
Right.
But
Right.
even so,
It is
like,
the same, and not as cool as the ocean.
well, I guess so. But I got into scuba diving just to go into the ocean, so that's just my connection to it. But
yeah,
I don't know. And then there's like they put on this website. So I got this from a certain website, and they put sharks and other marine animals. And there was a couple other animals on there that they listed, like, well, one of them they put sea urchins, which I don't feel like that should be a fear, because if you're running into a thing that doesn't move, that's your own fault that you ran into something that stung you.
Yeah. Well, man, so there was one dive that I did. We went through this swim through, but it had two branches. So you go one through, okay, no problem. We went back around and went through, and you go this one direction, and you had to like almost crawl to get through this
cool.
swim through. It's a short one, very short swim through. It was one of those like, oh, you see urchins.
Yeah.
This is like, don't poke me.
Right.
And yeah, no, it's definitely like one of those when I see them, like, stay away.
Stay away. Right.
But it can also be one of those, okay, if, be mindful if you're in a surgy area, okay, you got to maintain some further distance just to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back. It'll go back to maintaining your buoyancy. If you're afraid of sea urchins, you got to make sure that you're not dropping down and bam hitting the bottom.
Right.
And,
just going straight down.
Yeah. Part of it too is making sure that you're wearing protective gear. Like I said, I've been going in warm water and still wearing a full 5 mil wetsuit and gloves just to help protect, just in case that you bump into something.
And how do you feel about moray eels?
Oh, they're cool to see.
Yeah, well, apparently people are scared of those too.
They're in the rock and just like.
They always look like they're laughing to me, like they have a joke to tell.
No, they look angry. Honestly,
you think so?
I think they look angry, but they're just like, hey, bitch. Again, it's not like they're coming out to like attack you.
They only look angry because they have those pointy teeth coming out, like
that, and I think it's just the way their faces, and the way, and isn't it? I think it's the way they're feeding is just with their mouth open. They're sucking.
Right. It actually it helps them like pump water through their gills. It helps them breathe. It's the way. That's why they open their mouth like that. So they're not trying to particularly scare you off. They're just trying. They're probably scared themselves and probably breathing more and then pumping the water through their gills. So that's probably that situation. But I did hear a scary story from one of the eels. So one of the shop owners, Alex, he actually got bit by an eel. And that's because he was trying to go for one of the lobsters under the rocks. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but a lot of the eels will kind of like herd a lobster. And they'll basically get a little lobster and they'll wait for it to grow up and then they'll eat it. So protecting his little, snack for later.
It's little cattle.
Yeah, basically like cattle. He's like herding his own cattle. So Alex went in there and saw the lobster because they were lobster hunting, and went and didn't see that there was an eel nearby. And if it sees you go after the lobster, it's gonna grab onto you.
Oh
And
no.
so it grabbed onto his hand, and they're not poisonous or anything, but there was so much
No.
bacteria in its teeth that his hand got super infected. And
Hmm.
so he doesn't go near them anymore. But
Yeah.
obviously, you're only going to get bit if you're sticking your hand in their face or trying
Right.
to go after their herd or anything like that. Like, he just made the mistake, and he even admits like that was a mistake he made. But I don't like find them scary. It's just maybe to stay
No.
out of their way. Another
Right.
buoyancy thing. Like, don't just get in their face.
Right. Um, I was, yeah, this last trip, I was kind of like, her- I was helping guy to dive, and
Mm.
like, it was still, very new at that part of it, and so I'm like, okay, I gotta go find cool stuff. So I'm there with the light. And, oh, look, here's Neil. Oh, look, here's Neil.
Right.
And then eels and that dive specifically found a lot of eels and puffers. I always find like the green morays are very very abundant. Oh, yeah, kind of abundant there in San Carlos. And I was like
Mm-hmm.
seeing the little spotted eels.
The
I like
spotted
seeing.
eels are so cute. They're not very many, like you said. I've only
No,
seen
right.
maybe like 3 total. There was like a black and white spotted one, maybe a
Mhm.
yellow and green one, but I mostly seen the big green moray eels
Right.
is most common.
Yeah.
But
Um, yeah. And it's cool. I've the first trip I went on, Ian and I saw one, and it came. Oh no. Yeah, yeah. It was out of the rocks, so you see its whole body and just kind
oh,
of like hanging
that's
out there on
rare.
the sand.
You
Yeah,
don't see that too often where they
yeah,
come out of the rock because they're usually really shy and they kind of just want to
right.
hide in under the rock. So
Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool.
yeah.
And that was in one of your first dives?
That was mine and Ian's like first dive where both of us were certified. Like it was that trip that weekend. We had
Nice.
7 total dives. And you had to have our 4 to be open water certified. And which actually he he got sick on the first day, so he missed his first
I
2.
remember that.
Yeah, poor guy. Yeah,
That's
which
my
now,
fear,
yeah,
actually.
now he's golden. He's got whenever he's on the boat, he's got his meclizine, and so he
Okay,
takes
cool.
that. But so it was, he had 2 more dives with Chris. Like he had already gone through none of the skills, but he just had to be with Chris. And then I think it was like our very last one of that weekend, and we're just kind of over here like, oh cool, check this out.
How cool is that? Like on one of your very first dives, official dives of being a scuba
Right.
divers. You saw that. That's really
And I
cool.
saw one in Cayman too, actually like out and like slithering, like going from rock to rock. That
That's
was cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, one more. There is a whole list of animals that people are afraid of. I kind of just picked the ones that we see often.
Okay.
And another one that people put on there was sea lions.
That's just,
That's just crazy to me. Literally, they're
yeah.
the puppies of the seas. Are you scared of dogs? That's what I was thinking. Because
Right.
I don't
There
know.
are people that are scared of dogs, but yeah,
I mean,
they're
I try to put some logic to their answer, and I could maybe because they're fast. They
well,
do kind
and
of sneak up on you and they get up to your face, but it's all in play. They want to play
right.
with you.
Well,
So,
it'd be interesting to see. Okay, the survey, right?
right.
Was it survey? Did they survey scuba divers, or was this
Yeah, it
just
was like people that are the fear of scuba diving. That's like that haven't been in the water with them.
that haven't been in?
Right,
So
right. That's what I'm assuming. It doesn't say, but it's just like
right.
people that are fear that from to start scuba diving. That's what
Huh.
I'm assuming.
Okay.
And
So yeah,
I
because
mean, how
that's
can you look at a sea
anytime we
lion and think it's scary?
right anytime we go, or we go out to San Pedro Island, we're like, and guess what? We got the sea lions here.
Yeah, I know.
And
I don't know.
the only thing, the things that we always tell the KB be cautious about is, one you talked about with the bull. Whenever they're
Yeah,
going back and forth, they're saying, "Do not cross this line."
right.
He's got a big knot on his head, so just that's the one stay away from. And then, okay, yes, they are, and yes, they are adorable, but they are still wild creatures, so don't try and touch them.
Yeah, don't
And
touch
then
them, obviously.
fingers, don't put them out. I think they're
Yeah,
little
they'll try to
sausages.
nip at your fingers
So
if
you
you
want
put your hands in their face, right?
right. So just
Hmm.
keep them here, or if you don't,
Just
I
don't
just
touch them. That's pretty
Right.
much like just don't touch
So
it.
I think those people need to go out to San Carlos, go to San Pedro Island, and just experience it.
They should need to try it out for themselves because I don't
Yeah.
know. I like playing with the sea puppies. Even when like some of the divers they have like stories or even videos of like the puppies like nipping at their little mask and stuff, just trying to
Well,
play with them, and I think it's so cute.
I've got a
But
friend that he was doing the skill of taking off the BC underwater and then putting it back on. Well, let's go put it back on. There's one that actually grabbed his bit and took took his BC,
oh my
like
gosh.
grabbed on, like not too far away. I mean, he still got it, but he's got a bite out of his BC from the sea lion,
Oh my gosh,
which
that's so crazy. That's
yeah,
so cool.
very rare. So
That
don't like,
is
hey,
rare.
don't think of that as a for people watching that haven't been with sea lions. Don't think that happens often,
No, it
and
definitely doesn't happen
they're
often.
just again trying to play. They're not being aggressive.
Oh yeah, they're always trying to play. Like if you spin, they spin type thing. It's so cute.
Right, right.
But I thought those are the top three that I found that were kind of hard to see as something to be scared of. But
What were
I
the
could
other?
try to put some logic behind it of why they're
Oh,
scary.
sure. I
Yeah.
mean,
Especially if
sharks
you
is
never tried it before.
just because there's so much in Hollywood. You know, a nice shark that you normally see isn't good television.
Right.
uh,
Everything's jaws, you
right,
know?
right.
Mm-hmm.
What were the other two?
Well, we have three more. So the
Oh,
next one was the other one you guessed, claustrophobia.
claustrophobia. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
So I don't. The way I try to put logic behind that one is maybe the pressure of the water, of feeling with all the gear and the pressure. Unless you're like in a cave or something, the claustrophobia
right,
of that.
right. And I think part of it is feeling like you're not actually getting a full breath whenever you have the regulator in and you're underwater. That could be part
Mm-hmm.
of it, and maybe even just the BC feeling like
And
it's
all the
on
weight in your BC.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like actually that's part of you know why my mom was kind of like not not big fan of of scuba diving. So and again, it could be the conditions. Now, if it's kind of
Right.
dark and you're not really seeing much, then yeah,
Or it's murky and you don't see very much
right,
and stuff like that.
right. But if you're able to see a lot, then maybe that changes.
Yeah, well, I think another, like we talked about earlier, it's just one of those skills that if you decide you do want to scuba dive and you have this fear, maybe just take it slow and then tell your dive buddy that you have this kind of fear, and then you guys can just do things slow together, and then, just breathe.
Yeah,
Just remember to breathe is like the number one thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never hold
I've
your breath.
I've never really come across an experience that I've seen someone with this type of fear, I don't think. But I could see why they have this fear, for sure.
Right.
Well, just like your mom, like if you said the same thing, like she just could just be trapped. So like another situation, like where she can go to another area might help.
Right. Exactly. The they're in the blue hole, which all it is just
Yeah, it's
basically
literally just the whole.
a hole,
Yeah.
basically. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah, I
dark
think
at
she
the
would
end.
like it if she gave it another go.
That's
Maybe.
my hope. But
Maybe. And then the
I mean,
next one is running out of air. So
yeah.
yeah, I
So
again I could see it, but you should
yeah.
learn like proper air management, and they teach you that in your class, how to
Right.
properly manage your air. And when you have buddies, you guys always air check, and there's all like a lot of regulations to go around that fear.
Right. So yeah, going back to that is making sure that you're always checking your gauges. It, it, I think one of the instructors was talking about because I sat in on a class and he was talking about like how many of you have ever run out of gas in your car. It was
Right.
like so that was a matter of you not really checking your fuel gauge. Like
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I joked because like I did raise my hand. I was like, well, it was also like a bad gauge.
Oh.
not working. So it's like I had to figure out it's using other means to figure out how much gas I had. But
Mhm.
yeah, so it's like checking your gauges and making sure that you're on it, and then making sure that those gauges work. But they also teach you if you run out of air and you're not close to your buddy, what to do in an emergency ascent.
Mhm.
If you're down below, well, you've got all this compressed air. As you start going up, it's going to expand. You have all this extra air in your hose, your BC, that's now going to start expanding. So you can have your regulator in. Oh, I can't breathe. Okay. Oh, okay, I better go up. Keep
Mhm.
breathing out. Keep breathing out. Okay, if you need to take a breath, now once you've gone up a little bit, again, still going at a safe ascent, you still don't want to go too fast. Um, okay. I have some air in there now, because now that compressed air has now expanded some in that hose lines and everything, that you actually have some air again. But again, this is still,
Yeah, and that's a good
yeah,
point.
but
That I
I
don't think a
definitely can
lot of people
understand.
know that too. That you will, when you go up a little bit, you'll get that air back again. And it just
Right.
depends how deep you are and what level of dive you are to know that situation. But like, since these are people that are scared of scuba diving, they don't know things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
their argument is like, what if I get bad equipment? Which is pretty rare in itself because I tried looking up situations like that. And even if you get a bad regulator where it has like a failure or anything like that, it does like a free flow. So then you'll have too much
Right.
air, like essentially.
Right.
And so you're overdosed with air. So there really shouldn't be a situation where you run out of air unless you're really not checking your gauges.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
on talking about that, do you have Dan insurance?
I do.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So have you got the annual report as far as diving accidents?
I don't think so. Not yet.
I got it. I got it
I
in
think.
an email,
Oh,
an
okay.
attachment,
Uh-huh.
probably a couple months ago,
Okay.
and I just skimmed through it, but it breaks down and it'll tell you, okay, they're out of the whole world. These were how many deaths were reported from scuba diving accidents. This is what they were, what the determined cause was. This was, and then there were this many injuries, and this is what determined the cause was. And I want, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I want to say most of them were actually people being, idiots with animals, like
Diver
messing
area.
messing with them. Exactly, diver error, but messing with animals when they shouldn't have been.
So that was the
Um,
number one.
I, I,
You think?
as far as injuries,
Right.
I
Right.
think.
Reggie.
Again, I said don't quote me on it.
Mm-hmm.
Go see the Dan report yourself. um, but yeah, there was, you know, I don't think there was anything in there that was reported as equipment error.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really, really rare because that's why I couldn't find too many situations with that because I tried researching that part before. That way, if anyone did have an argument against it, and that was the only thing I could find is that you'll end up having too much air if you had a free flow problem with the malfunction of your
Right,
regulator, but it's so rare for that to happen.
right.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
I do get that fear as well as just as long as all the other ones. Um, but just check your gauge every now and then. And
Right,
they teach you in classes to check your gauge and all
right.
that fun stuff. And then the last one, probably I can relate to, is the fear of failure, which is like my stress and rescue class. I don't want people to watch me fail. So I could see that,
Right.
but I don't know. If you can only not or fail if
Like
you not
the
fail if you don't
the
try. Like you
failure
have to
would
try.
be, yeah, yeah, exactly. You have to try, but I mean the failure being, I mean, I could see getting into it, that if you're not comfortable with your skills, that you're the fear of failing is in, like, you're not going to actually get certified because you're not able to do X and Y skill.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know, maybe if they have a trip coming up and they didn't pass their class and so now they can't go on this trip. I'm not really sure the situation of that fear, but I guess I
Well,
could kind of
yeah,
relate.
yeah. I'm not sure on the fear side of it, but I mean, I know, it's one of those that if you're having a hard time with certain skills, to go back and practice and keep practicing, and
Mhm.
only dive with what you're comfortable with. If you're having a hard time with um, if you're uncomfortable with doing a boat dive, but you're comfortable with doing shore dives, do shore dives for a while, practice that. If you're or and then go in and start doing practicing a giant stride, but practice it with say just your BC without any other gear, with your BC fully inflated, that you can just practice, I'm floating, practice, I'm floating, and stuff like that, and stuff like that too. You can even practice at the pool. So I think, and some of that too can be, if you're feeling uncomfortable about any of that, trying to do, and this becomes part of the job of a dive master, is recognizing people that don't look comfortable and trying to notice, figure out what they're uncomfortable with,
Mhm.
and going from there to help them get over that, try and and get over that fear without with while being reasonable.
I think
You don't
for
just like,
me,
suck it up, you're fine.
yeah, well, I think if anyone does have this fear of being a failure or anything, maybe like my recommendation would be get a good dive buddy, like wants to do scuba diving with you. That way you guys can feed off each other. Because I know when I do a lot
Yeah.
of dives with
Well,
Sarah and stuff, I'm way more
mhm.
confident because I know she has my back if anything goes wrong.
Right,
And we
right.
kind of know each other because we learned like a lot with diving with each other. And so I always felt super like comfortable diving with her. So
Mhm.
I just say get a good
Well,
dive buddy maybe.
yeah,
That
and
might help a lot.
part of talking about that, of trying to feed off of each other, you know, do a debriefing after each dive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, with each other, like, hey, you did this well, you did this well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I noticed that you were doing this better than you did last time.
Right.
Stuff like
That's exactly what we do. And then we have like different like signs and stuff, how we talk underwater and like so you learn a lot when you're with the same person for a
right,
while. So
right.
I don't know. I think that'd be my best recommendation is get a good
Yeah,
dive buddy. And then
yeah.
you can just learn your own tricks and feed off each other and tell you, do your stories
Mhm.
or film together, whatever you guys want to
Right.
do. And
And
that
so
cancels out
what
a
if
lot of fear.
right? So what if you are going somewhere, you're not going with your typical dive buddy?
I have been getting better with making new friends. And especially
Yeah.
with me moving out of country where I'm not going to know literally no one, I
Right.
had to face that fear on my own. But I think I'm getting better where I'm starting to learn and to put myself out there more. And, you know, we'll see. You'll see
Well,
less videos if that means I haven't made any dive friends.
I think that's where you're gonna have to. Okay, if you're going on a charter or going,
Hmm.
a guided shore dive, that you're like going to the dive master, like, hey, I need a dive buddy,
Right.
and they'll pair you up, and I think start off, like telling each other's, you know backgrounds and stories, like, hey, this is why I'm here to dive, and this is how long I've been diving, this is, stuff like that, and or you get to know, okay, just from introducing each other, and like also looking at their gear,
Yeah.
uh, okay,
How
this is
experienced of a diver they are.
how experienced they
Yeah.
are, and what I should look out for, or and stuff like that,
Even when I met you the first time, I don't think I really talked to you like a lot.
Mhm.
Because the only thing I remember from that trip in particular is really funny was that you thought, I thought you said that you saw squirrels off the side of the
Right,
boat.
right.
And then I was like, because you're like, oh, look at all the squirrels over there. And I'm like, damn, this guy has really good eyesight because he can see squirrels from the boat. And you were trying to say saguaros? And that's
Squirrel,
the only.
squirrel. So
Say it again.
with a G, with the G with an H sound, it's a squirrel.
No, it's
Squirrel.
called saguaro.
Squirrel.
No. Oh
Doesn't
my
matter.
gosh. And I remember, that's the only thing I remember. And Sarah's like, I
Right.
think he's trying to say squirrel. I'm pretty sure he's saying squirrel.
No. I know. And that was I had the mustache.
The mustache. Yes, you were the mustache man. That's how I remember. The mustache man that said squirrel. Like you
Yeah.
see squirrels from the boat. But even
When
then, I was like, since I had Sarah, I was like, oh, I don't really have to talk to anyone. But I'm
well,
getting much better at doing this.
when you guys weren't even staying at the hotel that trip, were you?
No, we were. We
Oh,
just
okay.
we just kind of did our own thing. Like we would
Right.
dive with you guys in the morning on the boat, and then we would snorkel afterwards. We would still be back
Oh,
in the ocean, and so we wouldn't make the dinner. So by the time we got back to
right.
dinner, we were barely getting back into the room. So we were pretty much on our own dives
Right.
the whole time. But yeah, we're getting better at that. Talking to people more. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, that was everything. So,
All right.
since you don't have any fears of diving, do you want to share maybe a funny story you want to leave off with, or a good experience, or anything that we should end the podcast with?
Let's see.
Just to put you on the spot.
As far as like diving goes, or
Yeah, diving or anything ocean related that has to do with the water. It doesn't have to be diving necessarily.
okay. I'm gonna think let's see a good funny story. I mean,
Or a good story of like an encounter you had besides the,
besides everything else. Oh, okay. We'll just say I'm just gonna leave a good tip for if you're ever diving in Kona. Kona being is part of the Big Island of Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a really cool experience because there's so much to do outside of just diving. So whenever Aspen and I got there, we the next day did a shore dive, but we only did a shore dive in the morning because we were going to do this full tour on a van of the whole island, which we knew that we were gonna our elevation was gonna be changing a lot. So it was like, okay, we're gonna do something just one in the morning, and then we'll be good. Which we made a good day of that because we went and we did the shore dive. Then we went a little further south to the southernmost point of the U.S., which was fun cliff diving there. And then there's the green sand beach. Mm-hmm. So that was all really cool to do. So then at the end of our diving, our last boat dive, we were planning on going the next day to actually do a few more shore dives. But there was another guy on the boat that showed us these pictures that he went to go take up at the observatory, which is up at 14,000 feet. So again, it's like, okay, you can't go diving and then the next day go up and have a big elevation change because of the nitrogen that you have in your system. And so that instead of doing the shore diving that next day, we just kind of made a leisurely day of just mess around without doing any diving, so that the following day we can go up and take these awesome pictures. The guy, what he ended up doing, so it was, have the background here, you have the picture of the Milky Way behind us.
Wow.
And so what he basically ends up doing is, opening up the camera shutter to allow light in, right? And then like the last second flashes the bulb so to where you can see us without over flooding the picture with light.
Right.
So my tip would be for if you're ever diving in Kona to save some time to be able to go up to the observatory for pictures like that. Shout out for that guy is epictours.com is where you'd want to go to contact to do those pictures.
Yeah, I'll link all that below. That way, if anyone actually is in that area and they can go and check that out. But you bring up a really good point, because even on a lot of trips that I've at least been on, they recommend always having a rest day at the end anyways. Mm-hmm. That way, if you get on a plane or you have to drive over a certain elevation or wherever you're at, you should be having that rest day or on the very last day. That way you can avoid that problem.
Yeah.
So
And then obviously when you're there, there's the Manta Ray night dive, which is always
oh
like
yeah,
that was awesome.
I've seen a few
I was
people do that, which is really cool.
yeah, and I still need to post a video on that one that put together. Just I got a lot of footage on that one, but I was sitting there with my GoPro and laying in the sand because they overweight you, and just laying there, and he's coming up, and I'm just rolling and rolling. Whenever the guy with the manta ray was just like coming over my head, I'm just rolling to get like a good shot of him.
I
It was
didn't know
so
they
cool.
overweighted you for that dive. So you just kind of lay down and they come over you?
Yeah, and
That's
you're only
cool.
at it was like 35 feet.
Yeah,
It's
but that's still
definitely
really
like if you're
cool.
there, you have to do that dive.
Wow. Because even though if I did the manta dive in Bali, we kind of just swam around with them. So that's a whole nother experience. That's really cool.
Yeah, and this is a night dive, and it was you had a bunch of lights set up, and the plankton are attracted to the light, and the manta rays eat the plankton.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just coming like nom 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 nom.
Just right. They're just it's dinner time.
Killing it.
Right.
I want to say that he kept coming to me because every diver they give you a primary light that you're
Uh-huh.
holding here, right? Well, I also had my own personal primary light that I had on, and my secondary light that I had on just to have them on, and
Oh.
then I had a light on the little GoPro rig that I had just set up to be
So he's
vertical.
like,
And
this guy's lighting up all the plankton. I'm coming right over him.
right.
That's really cool. So if anyone wanted to see these videos of yours or anything like that, what's your Instagram?
So both Instagram and YouTube are JW Guppy. So it's JWGUPPY.
Okay. And for anyone that's listening, I'll put that in the show notes as well. So that way you can check him out, say hi, whatever you want to do, and see his awesome videos because he's posting way more than me anyways. So you should probably go to his account because I'm not doing anything but working right now. But soon, I promise, I'll start posting some more stuff. But
They put some back footage.
right, back footage. But thank you so much for being on this podcast and
Yeah,
sharing all your
thank
stories.
you.
And it was
Yeah,
awesome.
that's
And
fun.
then, yeah, I appreciate it. So, yeah, thank you. And that's a wrap. So I'll see
All
you
right,
later,
thank you.
and hopefully I get to do some more dives with you in the future
Yeah.
when I get back from New Zealand. Oh, when I get back, then we can do some more Mexico dives with
Right.
Aspen and Ethan and Sarah. We can all do a trip together. That'd be awesome.
Ian, not Ethan.
Don't tell him I said that. He'll be
Edit that
watching.
out.
He'll be watching.
Right.
Yeah, no harm done there. But yeah, we'll plan something when I get back, and that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
But thanks
All
again,
right.
and I hope you have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Bye. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. I know this is a bit longer podcast, but I thought it was super casual and really fun, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of the style of podcast I'm going for is just to sit here and have a conversation more where it's not set up as like an interview unless I really don't know the person. So I really enjoyed it. I don't know about you guys, but let me know. So with that being said, thank you so much for Justin for being on this podcast and sharing your stories. For someone that hasn't been diving for very long, about a year, you do have a lot of stories and great advice to tell and share with everyone. So I really appreciated it. And if you do decide to go down the road of being a dive master, you're going to do really great. Also, I feel like I should mention that we are not dive professionals. We are in love with the sport. And if anyone has these fears that we talked about, feel free to reach out to me. I can get you in contact with a dive professional that can talk about these fears more in depth and probably give you better advice. I know we were just chatting and we're just going off our own experiences and the experiences that we have seen from other people. But again, we are not professionals, and so I hope no one got offended. I was rewatching it, and I think we were both really professional about the topic, but I know people have reached out to me, and I try giving out my best advice when it comes to fears, and I try to put myself in other people's shoes, but I can't really give the advice if I don't have the professional background, but I will be more than happy to connect you with a dive professional. If you are one of those people that want to get into scuba diving or maybe snorkeling or anything to do with the water, and help you overcome that fear, because starting scuba diving for me was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. And now I'm part of like this scuba family. So I know with the family we'll all be here to help you out. So please feel free to reach out. And if you have any stories or something you want to reach out and say and tell me, feel free to, or reach out to Justin too. You have his Instagram and his YouTube and stuff now. So just go ahead and reach out and say hi to him. So I'm going to try to make this quick since it is a longer podcast, but my tip this week, for those of you that are new to listening to the podcast, each week, or each episode I should say, since I don't post every week yet, I post a new tip to reduce plastic waste. So I did an episode with my parents and we talked about how we didn't use plastic for 3 months. And one of the big topics on that podcast and highly requested items was these silicone Ziploc bags. So you have your regular plastic Ziploc bags that you can use to put your sandwiches in or whatever people use Ziploc bags for, to store food mostly. And they purchased these silicone Ziploc bags, and they're pretty indestructible. You can use them in the microwave, you can put them on the stove, you can freeze your food in them. So anything you want to store in a Ziploc bag, you can put it in these silicone baggies. So I went and purchased them for myself, and used it. And so far I've only had them for a week, and I've stored when I go to my second job, I pack like pineapple or whatever, just snacks for later. They're way more durable and it keeps my food fresh longer, so it's really cool. I know people use for like divers and stuff, they use Ziploc baggies to put their phone and stuff in. So I actually plan on taking some, because they came in a pack of 6, to New Zealand with me and putting my shampoos and like bars of soap and stuff in each one of these little baggies, because you can reuse and use these for different situations. So I plan on just washing it and then storing it for my food later when I do go on dive trips and stuff, because I hopefully don't plan on eating out too much, because I heard New Zealand's a bit more expensive. But that's my tip for today. I'm going to put the link below if you guys are interested in purchasing that. And if you have any more questions for me about anything on the podcast that we talked about today, Ziploc bags, or if you just want to talk about your fears, whatever you want, I'll put my link below as well for my Instagram and email. So feel free to reach out. And yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you everyone for being so supportive of the podcast, and keep the feedback coming, because I'm enjoying it, and just makes me feel really good that you guys are listening and learning with me and going along this journey of mine and figuring out what to talk about and not really know what I'm doing, but it's pretty fun, and I love how you guys are so supportive and so great about it. So I will talk to you guys in a couple weeks, and yeah, see you soon. Okay, bye.